Hiya. For the past 2 weeks, I've been using the Beast by Tekkusai. So this pad is extraordinarily fast. It's probably the fastest glass pad in the world. And it was really confusing to me for a while, for reasons I'll get into later. But yeah, Tekkusai is the guy behind Kurasan and Glassworks, both of which are pretty beloved by people who use them. I think I've gone on record as saying that Glassworks is most likely the highest quality pads, or glass pads that exist right now. And all of his pads are interesting. They're all doing something that's fairly unique within the market. And this is no exception. I think there are 3 things that make this pad very unique. It seems like most glass pads aspire to this ideal of smoothness, of making it as textureless as possible, to have like no perceptible feeling from the pad. And it's a cool experience. It's very airy and it's very unique and very different from anything you get from cloth. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it has this sort of texture to it that when you glide your mouse across it, you can definitely feel, how do I describe it? It's almost like it's porous. It's not like a scratchiness. It's not like worn skates on a Skypad or dust or things like that. But having some texture, I feel like gives you a little bit of feedback in your aim that you wouldn't get from something like the Skypad 4 with red obsidians. That kind of air hockey table experience. And the more I use this pad, the more I ended up appreciating that texture. I think the second most noteworthy thing is the thinness. Compared to every other glass pad I've ever owned, this thing is like half the weight. It is a shocking feeling to pick this thing up and be like, wow, I could lift this with one finger. And I guess it's just a result of how thin it is. I can't say for certain how much the thinness actually contributes to the aiming experience, but I guess anecdotally, the first time I got my Skypad 2 and 3, I actually cut off the included feet, just because it was more comfortable to have my arm at about equal height to each other and just closer to the desk in general. And I guess this would continue that idea of having them do that, but it's hard to say how much it actually affects it. I would think that thinner is better, and I did enjoy it. It's definitely not a downside in any way. So let's talk about the speed now. I think that most people would say that the Skypad 4 is the fastest glass pad on the market right now. And the Beast is like head and shoulders above it in terms of speed. So let's start talking about the Skypad 4 first as a point of reference. I spent about a month with the Skypad 4, and my main issue with it was just controlling deceleration, stopping the mouse after making a fast movement. If you were to play a medium sense, like 35 centimeters, and try to push for flick speed, you will find, or at least I found, that it was really, really difficult to stop your mouse without utilizing an excessive amount of tension. So using tension at the end of the flicks will cause things like bounciness, being unable to stop at a very specific point. It will also cause a delay between when you're able to micro adjust after ending a flick or track a target at the end of it. In general, you just lose a lot of control over the rate of deceleration. You can come to pretty hard stops, but they're not going to be the cleanest, and it's going to limit you a little bit in terms of what you do at the end of the flick. And yeah, because the Skypad 4 was so fast, it felt like there was nothing this pad was offering me to help me stop the mouse, and I had to use tension. So by the end of that month, I was using it as a training tool to like, maybe I can really hone in my mouse control and eliminate all my shakiness, but it felt like so many problems were appearing because of how fast it was that it defeated the purpose of using it as a training tool. I was like excited to use something else at the end of the month. So when I finished my few weeks with the Beast, or when I felt like I had a strong enough opinion about the Beast, I felt the need to go back to the Skypad 4 to get a good comparison of the two and figure out where my opinion of the Skypad 4 stands. And it was honestly a shocking experience because my first thoughts were, 1, how does the Skypad 4 actually feel slow now? 2, I guess the Beast is better at dust resistance than I thought because this is kind of awful. 3, either it's the lack of texture or the friction balance of the Skypad 4 that makes it feel a little bit slippery by comparison. And then 4, I'm actually kind of playing better with it. What is happening? So the Skypad 4, dust resistance isn't that bad. It was just in a bit of disuse, and it's definitely worse than anything Glassworks has. But yeah, I only realized what happened with the speed aspect after I went back and watched some of my footage from Battlefield later. So I occasionally have this issue with flick speed, where I will flick faster than is necessary, when I could be slowing down and kind of confirming my shot, or just flicking at a speed that's a little bit more consistent to flick at. But for some reason, the Skypad 4 had forced me to slow down my flick speed. I didn't feel it when I was aiming, and it's kind of a strange phenomenon because it happened completely without thought. But it did end up having clips that looked quite smooth and very different from the ones that I was getting with the Beast. However, it came with the downside of when I was forced in these high pressure, panic driven situations, I would try to flick at a speed, or like my max speed, and I would end up having these really shaky and unstable moments. And I think to me that indicates that I just didn't have as much confidence, subconsciously, doing flicks on the Skypad 4. And the reason the Beast was so confusing for me was that it's faster than the Skypad 4. It should have all of these same downsides, but it doesn't seem uncontrollably fast, even though it literally is. I didn't understand why my stopping power was actually decent, despite my experience with the Skypad 4 being the exact opposite. It didn't have that sort of slippery quality. And I think the first reason is the texture. It just has that extra feedback that lets me, feel more in tune with the pad, I suppose. And the second is the way finger dragging works. So finger dragging is something people do mostly on cloth pads. They'll touch their fingers to the pad during a flick to increase the friction without using tension. And the way that works on glass is quite different, where with something like the Skypad 3, with it being so sticky on skin, you can make these really hard and sudden stops by using the finger dragging stuff. It's different functionally to doing it on cloth. And on the other side of the coin would be stuff like the Kazemi, which is so good at resisting your skin stickiness that it doesn't help you at all when you do finger dragging, pretty much. The Beast is somewhere in the middle, where it's almost similar to cloth. It feels like I can use my fingers to slow down or increase the friction of the pad and hold less tension compared to the Skypad 4 without it being overly sticky. It just is like putting on the brakes, which is really cool for a glass pad. It feels like I can potentially have much more well-rounded aim as a result of that. But I guess since we're talking about your skin on the pad, I should talk about the Sleeveless Experience, because that's something a lot of people have hyped up with this pad. People saying, oh, you'll never need to sleeve it. This is the most sleeveless-friendly pad that exists in the glass sphere. And I don't know, I don't really share that opinion. I don't get it. I don't know why. But my palm especially sticks really badly to the pad, even if I am not that sweaty. My arm is alright. If you were to use like a claw or palm grip where the back of your hand is very supported by the mouse, then it's possible that you could have this experience everybody else is having. But I just don't even see it being better than the Kazemi. I don't know. I mean, but the upside is that it allows this finger dragging technique to work, which I really did not expect from a pad this fast. So yeah, if you have had issues with your arm sticking to pads in the past, this one probably isn't going to be particularly crazy if you've tried like a lot of the popular ones. But it still is among the best. Like last time, Viscose didn't mind using it without a sleeve. It's just something that's, I don't know, a property of my skin, I guess. But I did end up leaning into my wrist and fingertip aim a lot more than usual on this pad, and I think the speed is the cause of that. Stopping the momentum of an arm-based flick in a short period of time is just really difficult on a surface that's this fast. And I feel like when you use a pad that's this fast in general, you will need workarounds to manage the downsides that it creates. Things like just flicking slower, or using quite high sense just to have less momentum in general, or lifting the mouse so you don't have to deal with the momentum at all at the end of your flicks. And I guess finger dragging also qualifies as one of these workarounds. These things can circumvent the problem that such a fast pad causes. Maybe if you're just like a mouse control demon, you'd be fine too, but I think there's a good reason why pretty much everybody who's like an insane target switcher on glass will use pretty high sense. It's just really difficult to have good stopping power otherwise. But going back to the Kazemi was really interesting. I kind of felt like the Kazemi would be my preferred pad, but I don't know if it's the speed or the texture of the Beast, or maybe both, but tracking felt insane. It just felt like completely intuitive, especially movement compensation was really good. And I'm not sure what the primary cause is, but my tracking on the Kazemi just felt like a little bit choppy, a little bit predictive. There was something causing a lack of confidence compared to the Beast. And yeah, it could be the friction balance and it could be the texture, but there's something to be said about a pad that is this responsive and low friction. The aiming experience, I don't know, it's just that glass ideal of having like every single motion be a result of your muscle movements. It's so intuitive and I don't know, it felt really good. I honestly never thought I would enjoy a glass pad that just puts all of its skill points into speed, but I could see myself maining it, and I think it's probably the finger dragging that makes me think that. It feels like it unlocks this well-roundedness on glass that is possible on other glass pads, but to have a surface this fast, have that be a possibility, is a cool idea to me. I didn't really feel limited with fast, wide flicks. And I think with enough practice, I could definitely get my arm more involved again. And to have my like fine tracking be so on point thanks to how fast this pad is, I don't know. It's a cool idea to have like so many boxes checked for me of things this pad can do. It's also made me question like what the role of controlled hard pads would be. Even though I just made a video talking about how like I could see how there's a good idea there. I don't know. I don't think anybody has done it that well yet, and I guess if anybody's gonna do it right, it's gonna be tekkusai. So we'll see what people think about the Hana. The other thing that I found confusing about the Beast was that it seemed to feel different every time that I would use it. For the first week or so, I really didn't know what I felt about it, which is not something that really happens to me with peripherals that much anymore. I just have like enough points of reference to kind of have a good idea of like, you know, where it sits compared to other pads and like how it matches my preferences. But this one, I don't know, out of the box it felt really good, and then like a few days later it seemed to develop like a stickiness on the skates that I didn't love, where I actually like leaned over to Visco and said like, can you like move my mouse around and tell me what you think about the static friction? It had like this like suction feeling to it, but like one day later it was just gone. I don't know, I think it might just be kind of skate sensitive. The difference between new skates and like week old skates is really stark, and it's not in an awful way. I kind of prefer the worn skate experience, honestly. The fresh skate experience is a little bit more like the Skypad 4, where it's really smooth and really, really fast. But I don't know, perceiving a bit more texture and having it slow down a little bit, it felt nice. It felt nice. I haven't had any issues since, and I don't think it would be like a break-in period because I don't think this pad is coated. So I don't know. Either way, like you gotta give props to tekkusai for making another pad that is this unique and pushing boundaries in the glass pad market. But yeah, I'm excited to put more time into it and get better with it. I feel like it matches my preferences a lot better than I even realized, and that's cool. Also, I didn't technically receive this pad for review, but Viscos did receive it for free, and I'm staying with her, so I just kind of stole it for the month. But it shouldn't affect my opinion, because, I don't know, I wasn't given the pad. I'm just using it. But yeah, thanks for watching.